In the summer of 2019, my two friends, Alex and Ben, and I decided to spend the weekend in the wilderness. We rented an old abandoned cabin by a lake, far from civilization, to escape the city's hustle and bustle and enjoy nature. The cabin stood on the edge of a forest, surrounded by dense trees, with a single road leading to it and a long, winding driveway. The first day went great. We set up camp, made a fire, and enjoyed an evening swim in the lake. Night fell quickly, and we decided to go to bed, exhausted from the long day outdoors. The cabin had no electricity, only kerosene lamps and candles, which added a special cozy and mysterious atmosphere. In the middle of the night, I woke up to a strange noise. It was a quiet but distinct whisper coming from outside. I got out of bed and went to the window. In the moonlight, I saw a figure standing at the edge of the forest, right across from the cabin. Panicking, I woke Alex and Ben, and they saw it too. We decided not to go outside, hoping it was just a wanderer who would leave. In the morning, we went to inspect the spot where the stranger had stood but found no tracks. This calmed us a bit, and we decided not to give it much thought, attributing it to our imagination. The second day passed as peacefully as the first. We fished, swam, and enjoyed nature. But when night fell again, the strangeness continued. Unexplainable things began to happen in the cabin. Objects moved on their own. Doors slammed even though there was no wind or drafts. Late at night, we heard the same whisper, but this time it was coming from inside the house. My friends and I, armed with flashlights and kitchen knives, began searching the rooms. In the basement, we discovered an old chest covered in dust and cobwebs. It was locked, but fortunately, Ben found an old key on one of the shelves. Opening the chest, we found old diaries and photographs inside. The photos depicted people who had lived in this house many years ago. Among them was a woman with dark, piercing eyes. We began reading the diaries and learned that this woman was a witch who had been accused of murdering several children from a nearby village. The more we read, the more uneasy we became. One of the diaries stated that the witch had vowed to return and take revenge on those who disturbed her rest. Suddenly, we heard a loud knock coming from beneath the floor. Fear gripped us, and we decided to leave the cabin immediately. Gathering all our belongings, we ran out of the house and sprinted to the car. But as soon as we started the engine, that same figure I saw on the first night appeared in front of us. It was approaching us, and we realized it was the witch. Amidst the screeching tires and our screams, we sped out of the forest and reached the nearest town. We told our story to the locals, but no one believed us. Since then, we have never returned to that area. The cabin by the lake remains abandoned, and the witch's whisper seems to haunt us for the rest of our lives. One evening, my mother and stepfather went out, either to a concert or to visit friends. I don't remember exactly. I stayed home alone and was working on my homework. I was one of those girls who tried to do all the assignments, sitting at my desk with textbooks and notebooks until very late. My desk was positioned so that I faced the window, and the door to my room was behind me. I liked to do my homework with headphones on, listening to music. My parents left around 6 p.m., and the whole time they were gone, I sat at my desk with my headphones on. Occasionally, I glanced out the window to watch the rain and the lightning flashing outside. I never left my desk. My parents returned at 11 p.m. At some point, I took off my headphones. This happened just a few minutes before my parents arrived and heard the front door open. A few seconds later, I heard my mother calling me. "Arena," she shouted. "What the hell happened here?" Not understanding what was going on, I left my desk and went to them. My room was separated from the living room by a small corridor. In a moment, I was next to my parents. My mother looked angry. She pointed to the carpet and said, "Did you do this? Did you bring a friend here?" I looked down. The entire carpet was smeared with muddy footprints. Desperately, I started explaining that I had no idea where the footprints came from and that I had been sitting at my desk doing homework all evening. My mother's expression gradually changed from angry to worried. Then I saw fear in her eyes. We immediately began examining the footprints to understand where they came from. It turned out they led from our back door, which we usually didn't lock. But we noticed something else. The footprints started at the back door, but there were no footprints leading out. Then we heard some noises in our house. Our front door opened and then slammed shut with a loud bang. My mother pulled out her phone and called the police. She was literally screaming, "Please, come as quickly as you can. Someone broke into our house." After a while, the police arrived. They searched the entire house but found no one. Then an officer asked us whose room was to the left of the corridor. My parents looked at me, and I told the officer it was my room. He asked us to follow him. As we followed him, we saw that the footprints, which started at the back door, led down the corridor to my parents' room, then turned and ended at my bedroom door. Then the officer pointed to my door, which had been open all evening. Written in black marker on it were the words, "I am here. 2047, I see you. 2053, you didn't lock the back door. 2059, you are such a diligent student. 2124, turn around. 2147, look at me. 2215, look at me. 2237, look at me. 2249, look at me." For almost 2 hours, someone had been standing at my door, watching me. To this day, I don't even dare to think about what could have happened if I had turned around and looked back.